you can have a beautiful resume and feel completely disconnected from the purpose. You could have a wonderful paycheck and a wonderful lifestyle, right? But then at some point, like that's not necessarily sustainable in the way you live.
Welcome to the Soulful Reminders Podcast, your go-to spot for spiritual inspiration, growth, and connection to your true self. I'm your host, Emily Cady. Each week, I invite inspiring guests to share their unique spiritual lessons and insights, helping us all remember who we are at our core. This is more than just a podcast. It's a vibrant community where we'll explore how to unlock our full potential and embrace our essence in every aspect of our life. Life can get busy and overwhelming, but here we focus on those soulful nudges that remind us of our incredible power. Whether you're seeking wisdom, a bit of encouragement, or simply a moment of inspiration, you're in the perfect place. Grab your favorite drink, get cozy. Let's dive into this journey together because you deserve to shine your brightest. So today I have my dear friend Wow with me. She and we recently met at a retreat and she just wowed me, honestly. So, wow. She's so amazing, so impressive. Wow, I'm just so excited that you're here with me today and for you to share your story. It's super powerful for us to hear. So thank you. Wow.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you for having me here. I'm super excited. And yeah, it was a pleasure to meet you at the retreat.
Yeah, that was so fun. Okay, so wow, can you share a little bit because you have experience with some pretty well-known corporations out in the world as a higher executive out there. And can you share a little bit about your experience of working in those corporations and then how did you align with your spiritual awakening? Where did that come in as being this like corporate executive?
I have been in PR and communications for a really long time. So I was in a lot of um, small and also larger positions, which were high pressure jobs. And I would say that my exploration of spiritual or healing modalities actually started with the intention of healing myself during my time in corporate. I was introduced to Reiki and I thought, okay, I'm going to try these healing sessions to see if they could help me relax a little more. And I just knew I needed a way to release a lot of feelings that I was having during that time.
I had some corporate jobs and I hated them. And
Mhm.
I am amazed that you worked your way up the ladder the way that you did. Um,
Mhm.
it takes a lot of courage to get there. It's not an easy process to move up the corporate ladder. And I was so drained and I was so exhausted in my own experience working in corporate jobs that I didn't even know who I was. And
Yeah.
I shut down personally. I didn't have the ability to like progress like you. I've gotten laid off of 2 jobs. and I and I thought I had some good skill, but I couldn't work out. So I'm always amazed by women that are
Mhm.
able to work up the ladder and maintain health, mental, physical, whatever, spiritual health, because my experience in working in the corporate world was such a demand. The high expectations of what you could produce were so unrealistic.
Mhm.
And I personally, my experience was sacrificing me to be able to get a paycheck.
Mhm.
So that when I got laid off was awful, a hit to the ego, yet at the same time, it felt relief because it wasn't aligned with that job. I wasn't aligned with that world. So can you share with me a little bit about like your experience, like how a little bit about your background of like what took you into these jobs and you obviously have a drive
Mhm.
to get you to move and progress far.
Mhm. Yeah, actually, it's so interesting that you say that because I don't necessarily felt like Um, I know I worked really hard for what happened, but I also felt like the transition came very naturally for me. So in terms of like I stayed in one company for 6.5 years, and then after that, the leap was just a natural leap to like a very high position. But I would say that I don't feel I was consciously navigating my career. Like I just kind of took the opportunities as they came, you know, not necessarily um deeply reflecting about whether they were in line with what I truly wanted. I don't necessarily know at that point what I truly wanted, but I think equally you also know when it's not necessarily aligned. But I
Hmm.
the disconnect I felt was like you can have a beautiful resume and feel completely disconnected from the purpose. You could have a wonderful paycheck and a wonderful lifestyle, right? But then at some point, like that's not necessarily sustainable in the way you live. So that was my personal experience in terms of like this wake up call that one day you're just so miserable about waking up and going to work. You know, that for me was just like such a huge sign, in addition to having burnout or so much anxiety about the environment and the surrounding. And like, I really, I mean, at that point, I did not necessarily give myself the permission to step back and take a deep breath and really think about life because I think at that stage, I was just in so much, how do you say, like fear and panic mode. You know, it was like survival mode versus like,
Is this survival to like maintain this job so you can maintain the lifestyle that you had gotten accustomed to, living up
yeah,
to other people's
absolutely.
expectations?
Yeah, I think it
Mhm.
was really like, I was really stuck on this identity that, you know, looked really great on the outside, but wasn't necessarily fueling me on the inside. So, um, I felt very depleted at work. Um, I didn't feel that I could trust a lot of people around me. Um, I didn't feel that the environment was contributing to my personal growth. So it was, yeah, that was, you know, a slow, gentle nudge to, you know, perhaps change my path. But I would say I waited way too long. And,
Right. Can I
you
ask
know,
you one thing? Because this happened to me, and I'm super curious if this happened to you. Like Friday would come around, and like the weekend is the time to relax and go out and have some fun. I was so drained that I'd find myself in bed all weekend long because I had nothing to give. Did you experience that as well?
yes, absolutely. You know, during my time at my previous job, I think I was just so exhausted and tired that I didn't really want to meet people. And, you know, even though that's actually part of my job, um, I would just prefer to disconnect and be with myself because I needed that space to kind of recover and recuperate. Um, and I felt that all the money that I was earning was just going into making myself feel better, like, because I was just feeling so empty inside. So I was just using the money to like go to a spa, get a massage, go shopping. You're like filling this void, um, you know, but it just wasn't sustainable. So that was pretty much my experience.
So here you are working for basically doing something that is not aligned with who you are. You're completely drained. You're using your money to try to replenish. And then all of a sudden, where or how did you get introduced to the spiritual side to help replenish you? And how did this impact you?
So, in terms of the spiritual side of things, I would say that that journey started, you know, much longer than when I decided to start to do my own business. I actually was introduced to a lot of healing modalities when, I was way younger. I think the first time I went to a retreat in northern Thailand, and I was introduced to a healer, and I've actually never met a healer before in my life. So that was the first time that, my this whole new world opened to me. Um, you know how they say like when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yes.
And to me, it was actually Reiki that that eventually just like opened me up to a whole new world of modalities and
I want
actually
to
studied.
hear, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to hear about your
Sure.
experience in Northern Thailand with this healer.
Yeah, so we were at a retreat, staying at an organic farm in the north of Thailand. And the purpose was to be in these workshops about eating healthy, living a more organic life. We were like hiking. We had people like showing us different herbs and plants during our hike, and we had a healer. So, in terms of the sessions that we were introduced to, apart from meditation, I actually experienced, I think it's called access bars
I'm not
for the
familiar.
first time. Yeah, so it's just um like I would say she just like put her fingers on different parts of your head to open you up a little more. I know the healer also did Reiki and all these things, but all of that was just so new and foreign to me at the time. So
And
I
did
think
you
that
feel
was
it? Did you feel the energy moving through your body and or not?
no, actually, at that point I didn't, but I was more curious about, what is this thing? Like, oh, I'm so intrigued. Because if I really think about my childhood, like I was so drawn to all these things. I was so drawn into um natural plants and plant medicine, and like astrology. So I don't know, like I felt like I put all of that away for a really, really
I
long time.
I find it so fascinating how our if we go back to our childhood and acknowledge like what interests us, those are the breadcrumbs that our soul is wanting to go down. But society has definitely programmed us to ignore why we want to be here.
Absolutely. I mean, if you really think about it, like you know best what you love, what your passions are, what you're drawn to, what you're interested in. But like, when you're around adults, like nobody kind of approves when they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What if
Right.
I was like, I don't know, an astrologist, a healer? Like, nobody is like, wow, that's amazing.
Well, and plus you're of Asian descent. And
Yeah,
so there's a different pressure for you.
for sure. I mean, my dad was always like, you know, what are you going to do your PhD on? So I think there was
That's a
always this
lot of pressure.
expectation. Yeah. Like, I mean, I think eventually my parents were super cool in letting me do what I wanted to do, but then I also, at a very young age, knew that they already had certain expectations about, how my life would be. So, yeah.
So you're living up to your parents' expectations, but still having some freedom to do it your way, but still within the confines of what what is normal, let's just say.
Yeah, I mean, I think, because the healing modalities came when I was much older. I mean, at that point, I wasn't living at my parents' place anymore. So I was just like being able to explore a little more, like in addition to just living my life, doing my corporate job.
Hmm.
So after the retreat, it actually took a few years before I was reintroduced to Reiki. But, at that point, I was asking for the healing, and I was receiving Reiki in order to try to relax and clear energies and sort of like maintain a normal life within the environment that I was in. So one day my teacher actually left to Australia and I was like, oh my gosh, like who, how am I going to get the Reiki I need? So one day when she was visiting and she came back to Thailand, she actually taught me how to do Reiki on myself. And that to me, something happened there because from that moment onwards, so many doors opened up. So after Reiki, I started to study gongs. And after gong, I traveled to Nepal to get certified in sound healing. So I was using singing bowls. And after that, I was in Sedona for sacred geometry. And so like there were different modalities that open up. And all of this was throughout many different years. Like now I love to explore retreats around the world because I get to meet a really cool group of people. And as you know, like the last retreat that I went to was all about astral therapy with
Yeah,
Mariko.
so to
That was
our
amazing.
listeners, Wow lives in Thailand, and she came to a retreat out here in Southern California for 4 days. She made the investment in herself and time for 4 days to fly
It
across
was
the world. And that just, again, you wow me. I'm like, how amazing. Both you and Cecilia. Cecilia was also on my podcast, coming from Italy. And the investment that you both made in yourselves is just so incredible to me.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that I have that opportunity as well. But um, these things, like I feel like these opportunities only happen once. Like we would have never met if
Right.
I didn't go there. And I was able to meet so many amazing people and to receive, I think that's it. It's like you receive the healings and the things you need um as you need them. So to me that was a gift and I happily embraced it. So
I
super
love
grateful.
that you do that. So I'm curious, I want to just touch on because I know a lot of my listeners, and I've been here myself having a corporate job, and you're burnt out, you're exhausted, you're like living up a life for somebody else. It's not on your terms. You don't even know how you got here. So now you've met this healer. You're now you know how to do Reiki on yourself. You're understanding more. Are you experiencing the relief in the corporate world as you are expanding your spiritual journey?
I think I went through a lot of phases. So as long as I put the knowledge to use and I'm actually practicing it, then yes, that, makes a huge difference to my, how would I say, my insanity and or my sanity and,
Okay. I'm like
trying, sorry,
insanity,
like,
insanity of like being
yeah,
in the corporate world.
like, I don't know, just trying to stay sane, I guess, in the craziness of the way things are going. Um, but it kind of requires me to put those things into practice, right? So as much as, yeah, there are many things I learned. I don't think I resonate with every modality, but then for me, it's like I would never know if I didn't try.
Right.
So yeah, so in the phases, there are phases where I actually did not very practice very much, and that didn't really help. And I would say, especially during burnout, there can be two things that happen. One is like you're just so exhausted and tired that you can't even get yourself to to go back and practice or use the things you know, or you are so desperately seeking for a way out and you turn back to the knowledge that you were taught before. So I don't know, I would say I go through phases. But to me, what was, it wasn't sad, but just the way that things were was like I never really acknowledged that spiritual side of me publicly, when I was in corporate. So now that I'm doing my own thing, I feel that I can be a little bit more open about that part because, like, at the end of the day, spiritual growth is part of the holistic growth as a person. Like, you know, in terms of like my life journey, I can't, it would be like cutting off an arm or a leg if I wasn't acknowledging that side of me. But yeah, now I think it's more about feeling like I have permission to do that. Yeah.
I think that's wonderful that you're able to acknowledge that. Also, I love that you're able to acknowledge like what happens during burnout
Mhm.
because I I know that I've been burnt out and I don't think I was that in tune with I can't function. I have to stay in bed all weekend. So, do you have some advice for anyone that may be facing burnt out? They're living a life for somebody else. It's not their dream. They're burnt out. What sort of advice would you give somebody that's been that is currently walking in the shoes that you've been in before?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, awareness is the biggest thing. So to even be aware and acknowledge that you are going through burnout is the first step because I think a lot of people are like, nah, I'm just tired. Like, I've had a few nonstop weeks, so I know I just need a break. But if you keep prolonging that, and that's what happened to me, is that, it builds up over time. So it wasn't that the company didn't let me take a break. I think at the end of the day, it was just me not giving myself permission to take a break for whatever reason, right? So maybe I was just like scared of dropping the ball. So I was like, no, I'm gonna work nonstop to like keep all the good work up. But that's not sustainable. So I think burnout can be prevented if you give yourself permission to disconnect from work and spend time with yourself, to deeply reflect or even like step away and just think about like what's happening, what's going on. Pay attention to the signals because your body knows, right? It's just about whether you accept those signals or not. And for me, I think I was in denial for the longest time. So I was like, no, I'm fine. But then, you know, by the time I realized it was like I was like deep into it already. And by that time I had brain fog, like I couldn't make good decisions. I couldn't trust the people around me. I was miserable. I did not want to go to work. I had so much anxiety on Sundays, and I
Isn't that
would
the
wake
worst? When
up.
Sunday comes around and you're like depressed and like, oh,
Yeah,
that's the worst.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would wake up at 3 a.m. thinking about work, which is so crazy
Yes.
in hindsight. I'm like, why would I even do that? But those are huge signs that this is not the life I want, or, like, is that the person I want to become? You know, how am I spending my time and energy? Like, why is it going to this place where I feel completely disconnected from? Right.
Right.
So I think giving yourself permission to take a step back and be open to the possibility that maybe this isn't me. Like maybe it's a beautiful resume, but it's not serving me. Like look at myself. Like I have anxiety. I'm miserable, and just being able to openly admit that, at least to yourself or to anyone you feel comfortable, it's a huge step. So if you have burnout, like um don't think that that's the end of the world, because I know that um with time and space for yourself, just trust that you know the answer. Just give yourself that time to figure out what you really want for your life. Yeah.
I appreciate that insight and that you're able to draw on your own experience to share that with us. I know I when I have experienced burnout, I will write down every day what my life or what my day looked like. And I can see as I do this, I can see the patterns that I keep reliving and that have kept me in a program or a pattern that that doesn't serve me, doesn't work for me. And that's one way that I've been able to also navigate getting out of a situation that's not healthy, but it's becoming aware of it. Like
Yeah,
being aware of, why is this happening? What am I doing on a daily basis that it needs to be revisited? Because we live our lives so unconsciously.
absolutely. And I think what's important in helping me get through it was also the support system that I had, like I actually had a group of friends where I was able to bounce off ideas or able to feel safe opening up to. And I had a wonderful family as well who were able to listen, although they were like, oh my gosh. Like, I don't think they can imagine me without a traditional full-time job. But I think at the end of the day, at least being able to confide in people who really understand or, you know, would lend you an ear is really important to that healing process.
Absolutely. It's vital because you
Yeah.
need somebody else's perspective that isn't living in it, that can share with you and help you navigate your way out. So, speaking of that, how did you get out of your corporate, well paying, high end job? I mean,
No,
that's
I mean, if you were, I don't think it went unnoticed. So absolutely, this this issue definitely had to be discussed with my manager at some point. So I think that conversation really just came to the fact that like, look, I don't think I'm aligned for this right now. And I'm miserable. So yeah, it was a difficult conversation, but I think in hindsight, it was such a gift that I got to just get out of that situation and, really find time to heal and just go on with the next step. It's actually, to me, I think it's like a personal thing because, before that, that was my whole identity, right? And the moment that you let go of something like that, I felt like I was grieving, um, like my old self. Also grieving and
100%.
also being like, what's next? I don't really know.
Um,
So,
you do grieve when you have to, you stepped away from your identity,
yeah,
the identity of what you have been programmed to be, and now you're stepping away. It takes incredible amount of courage to do what you did.
yeah. No, it was definitely a difficult conversation, I would say. And but I do know that it was for the best, in every way. Like I think it was the best thing to just move away from something that you were not aligned with and then at least give yourself that time to figure out uh, what the next step would be.
I love it. I absolutely love it. When I got laid off, I didn't really have time to navigate, but I just knew I had to. But this is one thing I've always found is I'm always taken care of.
Yeah.
And so if we trust in ourselves and our spiritual team, we will always be taken care of. It's not just me, it's you, it's every single listener here. We will always be taken care of. You just have to trust and believe it and know that we will be. And you've been taken care of in this process.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And it's like it was just a new year. So in the yearly reflection, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so crazy that, it's been a whole year of 2024 and all these things happening. But at the end of the day, it's like you just have to believe in yourself and that believe that, you will be provided with what is needed to get through. So,
Yes, it's true. So now you own your own PR firm
yes.
and you are a licensed or certified sound healer.
Yes, I am.
I know we're tight on time, but I want to explore both of these areas if you're okay with that. One, I want to talk about sound healing
Mhm.
because um I understand the power of the law of vibration and
Mhm.
how powerful sound is. And our energetic and physical bodies. But I would love for you to share a little bit about sound healing and how it's impacted you, how it impacts your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, to be honest, I don't remember what drew me to sound healing, but I did start from gongs, and that was a very powerful experience for
I can
me
only
to
imagine. I would love that.
yeah, like I was really lucky to experience that session. And um, what I noticed was a lot of people who I do get to see are people who have problems sleeping or are in need of deep relaxation. A lot of people come with anxiety or like just this need to relax. So, the session that I do is actually a chakra balancing session
Mm,
where, they lie down and then there are seven bowls placed around them. And then I hit the bowls accordingly so that the energetic blockages are cleared in the various chakras of their body. I would say, so the session's about 45 minutes to 60 minutes, but within the first 10 minutes, people are usually in deep relaxation. Some people are snoring or some people are asleep. And I think that's really wonderful to see because they're probably the people who need that rest the most.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's so
So that
powerful.
absolutely. I also feel healed and balanced by being able to give that session. So I do that as a passion project on the weekends. And yes, the my full-time thing is
I'm
I
curious
have
though, with your sound healing, is that strictly in person or is it something that somebody can order one online and you can send it a pre-recorded session?
yeah, right now it's just in person.
Okay.
I've not
I want
explored
one. I want
online.
one.
Please come to
So
Thailand.
I'm asking for me. So if you ever
Yeah.
pre-record one, I would love it because I probably would go to bed listening to it.
Oh, yeah, I would love if we ever meet again and have my bowls, then
Yeah,
it's
that'd be
happening.
amazing. Let's do it. I'll come to
Yeah,
Thailand.
yes, please. So that's for a passion project. Right now it's, still like by appointment only. It's a lot of close friends or anyone they introduce me to. And
So
then yes.
anyone going to Thailand and want to have a healing with Wow, you'll definitely have to hook up with her.
Please come by. Um, yeah, and I also have my own PR consultancy. So, I've been doing PR my whole life, like my whole working career. So for over 17 years, but mostly leading in-house companies. But now I'm like on the other side, helping companies and also individuals build their profiles. So it's been quite a journey. And also last year I was invited to teach as a guest professor in a university as well. So that's been a new eye-opening experience and I love it. And
What are you
yeah,
teaching?
I'm teaching the art of writing.
Oh,
So yeah,
love that.
it's it's so incredible. And for me, I'm just so amazed at meeting this generation of people because I was, like I'm amazed that it's like a whole new way of thinking. I feel so old when I say this, but I'm like, wow, you guys are really young and like this is, a whole generation that I am not familiar with. So it's
Yeah,
quite eye-opening. And when it's a writing course, it's almost like a window to see, their lives. And I'm so
interesting.
blessed to do
So what are
that.
you seeing? I'm super curious on that. What's the difference that you're seeing like in their writing and what they're sharing?
Well, I wouldn't say the difference is in their writing. I think the difference is in like their behavior or like
Yeah.
even the ways I have to teach in class. It would be so different from, when I was in university, for example, right? So, yeah. I mean, oh my gosh, first thing is attention span,
Right.
like
Mhm.
like how
Well,
do
I
I get
mean, this
people
generation of
focused?
kids have been raised on electronics.
I was like, oh my gosh, like kids these days, like it's it's a whole new world out there for me to learn. So
Mm.
yeah,
Well, I think it's great that you're working with them. It's important that they are still poured into. I love because I know one of your gifts is to manifest through your hands. So here you're teaching people to write and you play with sound bowls or
Yeah.
singing bowls. And the power behind that when you're setting the intention to clear people's chakras by using these sound baths and singing bowls, it's like I can only imagine how transformative and I don't want to use the word powerful because I feel like it's more than that. It's just very potent, I guess is a word that's coming to mind.
I hope so, and I hope the people are experiencing that as well. So it's
Obviously, they are if you're putting them into a trance state. That's beautiful.
yeah.
So,
But I think for me the difference between my past life and I mean as in my corporate life and what I'm doing now is that I'm getting to do all these cool things at the same time, and I feel like there's a lot more balance in my life. And even in being able to share at least one healing or spiritual modality that I've learned with more people. So I feel that, being able to do PR and teach on weekdays and then being able to do singing bowls on the weekends, it's been such a good balance for me so far. Yeah.
so you
I
feel more whole, you feel more balanced and complete. You're not drained.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'm like feeling like I'm coming into more of who I truly am, or
Mm.
at least like giving myself permission to like show a little more about that side of me. I'm sure there's more, but
Oh,
these
yeah.
are
I think
the
it's a
early
lifelong
stages.
journey for us to discover that.
Absolutely.
And it's
Yeah.
okay. Allow it to just unfold as it's supposed to. Right now, Spirit's showing me a lotus flower, and it's just like one petal at a time, just opening up, just so ever so slowly, but so smoothly, and just receiving that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So I hope you don't mind me just sharing this. Just what Spirit is showing me is the this lotus flower that's opening up for you. Each petal that is opening up, light codes are going out of the petal and into you, into your heart
Oh,
chakra.
yay.
So
I
cool. I
appreciate
love that.
it.
Thank you, Spirit.
Thank you.
Um, so those are downloads. Excuse me. The light codes are downloads of your past lives and your true essence becoming like going being activated into you.
Okay, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
Thank
love
you.
that. Um okay, so wow, I so appreciate you and really like embodying who you are and saying this is what I need. I know you went through a lot and it took a while to get there, but you did eventually make it there. And I honor and appreciate you for doing that. I know it's hard.
Thank you. I appreciate you too, and I'm so grateful that we had a chance to meet in person. So,
We'll meet again, I know. So,
yes.
is there any way, how can people get a hold of you if somebody is going to be in Thailand or is listening to this and lives in Thailand, wants to connect with you? How can they connect with you for a sound bath? Or if somebody has a small, you work with small companies, large companies? Do you have for the PR, what's your ideal client if somebody
So,
may need some help in that area?
in my first year, I pretty much kept it open. And so, on that note, like I have been working with, different sizes of companies and also individuals who really want some advice in terms of building their profiles. So I'm super open to, helping out or speaking to anyone who's interested. And my website is wowpr.com. So very simple and short.
I love it.
And I'm also on Instagram, so you can find me at Wowderfulme.
Wonderful you.
Yes.
I love it. So I'll leave the links in the description below so people can find you too. So
Yeah.
thank you. I would like to just end on if there's anything that you want to share with the audience before we wrap up.
I think for me, in terms of my personal reflection, I really felt that at the end of the day, it's my personal responsibility to make sure that I'm truly happy and aligned with the way that I'm spending my life. So I don't know if that message is going to resonate with anyone, but you know, I spent a lot of time in victim mentality, but at the end of the day, um, I was able to take back that power and really decide for myself what the next steps would be. And, that's possible for anyone as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Isn't it so empowering when you can like take back your power and step away from that victimhood?
Absolutely. Excuse me. Yeah.
Feels so good. Absolutely feels good. Taking responsibility for yourself and discovering that you are responsible for your own happiness. It's not on anybody else. And we could go on this, but I know we are at the top of the hour. And I am so appreciative of you and your time and that message. It is so important for people to hear today. So thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Soulful Reminders Podcast. I hope you're feeling inspired and empowered by the incredible insights we shared today. Remember, every story and lesson we explore is a beautiful reminder of the immense potential that resides within you. As you continue on your journey, take these soulful nudges with you. Embrace your true essence and actively work towards unlocking your full potential in every area of your life. If this episode resonated with you, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And don't keep this goodness to yourself. Share it with others who could use this little reminder too. Until next time, keep shining your light. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. Together, we can uplift and inspire one another to live fully and authentically. You got this.